What's up, guys? We're back with the latest in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Super 7. We are, of course, talking about Ultimates Wave 2, and I could not start with the turtle. It just doesn't seem right to not do the turtle first, and this wave happens to have my favorite and best turtle. Don't argue with me on that. We are taking a look at Leonardo. So we've got him here in the same style packaging that we saw with Wave 1, so the theme for the line. You've got the kind of trapezoidal shape box with the ooze green slipcover, so you've got the embossed Leonardo manhole cover there with his face. You've got the Turtles logo on the back, and then you can pop this guy off, and we've got the fantastic box within. I really can't stress how much I love this style packaging. The turtle stuff in particular does look pretty fantastic with this brick motif. So you got Leonardo there in the big window. You've got the kind of brick cutouts on the side. So you've got window on both sides. You've got the Turtles logo down there on the bottom. And then the back has got a bunch of that graffiti style artwork and more of that brick patterning along with a bio for our leader here. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our Ultimates Leonardo. And this guy was provided by Super 7 for the purposes of review. But I gotta say, this guy is just really doing it for me. A lot of that is going to be undoubtedly because this was my favorite Turtles figure as a kid as far as just standard Turtles. Leonardo has always been my favorite turtle, period. But I've just been dying to get a hold of new Ultimates. Once I finished Thundercats and Turtles Wave 1, I just felt like there was this void, honestly. Like, I wanted more because I want this line to just be pumped out nonstop. I want more and more and more of this. And this guy is a good example of why, because it's everything that I thought I had as a kid just made real, basically. And I'd say that we've got another solid figure on our hands here. This guy is very, very much the same kind of thing that we had with Raph. There's a lot of parts reuse going on here, which is pretty normal. It's a turtle. They are essentially the same. So there are, of course, some differences: color, harness, accessories, head sculpts, things like that. But if you've gotten around to messing with Wave 1 Raphael, you basically know what to expect on this guy. So let's see what's going on, see how he moves, all that good stuff. So you've got a head that can look up really far. They do have limitations when it comes to looking down. They basically only kind of slightly look down, and then you've got some tilt side to side for a little attitude, and then you've got full rotation. The arms go out at the shoulders, about that far. They, of course, will rotate all the way around. We've got our bicep swivel. You've got your single rotating elbow there. And then we've got vertical hinges and rotation on his wrists in the box. These guys do have something that I really, really like when it comes to turtle figures because it's not something we see a lot. It's that they have an actual movable waist. It's not super movable because, of course, they've got the, the inner shell, under shell, whatever you want to call it, the stomach shell. But you can actually move that. You can swivel that around a little bit more. Like, say, by comparison to the NECA figures, they have something similar, but it's not really usable. It doesn't do a whole lot. By comparison, this does shimmy quite a bit, so it actually helps when you're doing kind of like a walking pose or anything like that, running pose. The legs go out all the way, and then, of course, they also kick forward all the way, and then they do kick backwards a good bit as well. You do have your thigh cut. We've got our single-jointed rotating knee, and then you've got your hinges, which are very much unencumbered, full range of motion there, and then you've got your rocker as well. So again, exactly the same kind of situation that we saw with Raph. So you've got your single pinless joints, which I'm still very much happy with. I think aesthetically, the seamless nature of this figure is very appealing. But for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figure, this guy does move really well. I was very pleased with Raph for the most part, and this guy is, again, more of the same, which is not a bad thing. Now, as far as the overall aesthetics, the look, the feel of this figure, it's again more of the same. If you're familiar with Raphael, then you pretty much know what to expect. Of course, Leo does have some distinct differences, though. Obviously, one of them being the head sculpt, the color palette, and then, of course, his harness. The body, though, the overall musculature, the sculpt, it's really the same. That's not a negative, though, because, I mean, I pretty much love that Raph to begin with. So this is, again, another solid entry, and I'm perfectly fine with the fact that these figures are essentially the same bodies. There's not much reason why they need to be too different. I do think that the coloration on the skin in particular is really well done. We'll do a comparison to my vintage Leo here shortly, among other Leos as well. But this Leonardo does, of course, have a bit of a darker green. He's kind of olivey green almost. He's not certainly as dark as Donnie is when it comes to his coloration, but by comparison, he's much darker than Raph. There is shading in the musculature, so like down here along the striations on the arms, you've got it in the thighs and then also around the shins as well. So there is a little bit of that black shading to help bring out this sculpt a little bit more and just accentuate some of that detail. You do have some really, really saturated and vivid colors when it comes to the pads on the elbows and the knees, and then of course the wrist straps also. One thing that I did note that is maybe kind of odd, but at the same time a little bit different from the imagery that we saw for pre-orders and I guess the prototypes, is that the belt does have some changes to it. This section here with the medallion for the L and then these little bits and bobs right here, they were black in a lot of the promo imagery, whereas they're very silver here. Raph has some of this as well. His is a bit more of a gunmetal-y color. It's not black by any means, but it is it's not as bright silver as this. So that's a bit of a change up, a little bit different. I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't really care one way or the other, honestly. It does not necessarily match the vintage figure, but I do think that it looks pretty cool and it makes things pop a little bit more, honestly. The L, of course, is painted yellow because why not? You need to have your initial on your belt, don't you? And then we've got the harness that wraps around the back. So you've got kind of these leathery style straps, which are, of course, you know, movable. They will flex and bend and move as you move the figure. And then you've got kind of that low hung sheath for the two swords, which I've already got on there. Why not? He can hold his accessories, so you might as well throw them on there. And they do have actually slots in there for each one. So the one on the bottom actually tucks into a little segment there to hold it in place, and then the top one goes over it, so you're not actually fighting for space there. They do have their own little channels almost to fit in, so I do really like that. But again, I mean, it's a lot of the same stuff that we saw with Raph, but I love that figure. So it's my favorite turtle just done up on a body that I'm already familiar with. The only real difference that I noted that might be something of a contentious point for folks is the belt area with that silver paint. But otherwise, I think the harness looks good. Colors are really nice. Shading on the figure is very consistent when it comes to where it's applied. And the color looks really good. It matches up really nicely to that vintage figure. Of course, the most key aspect of this figure for me is the head sculpt, and that is just fantastic. I'm really happy with this because all of the turtles had kind of that weird little unique expression that they had. So Leo has the one where he's gritting out of his left side of the mouth, your right, and then he just looks like Leo. I mean, this is exactly what it looks like. The head sculpt is eerily similar to the vintage figure. So far, that has been pretty much a hallmark when it comes to this line, is how some of these details are just so close to what the vintage figure looks like. So you've got more of that bright blue for the bandana. You've got the pupilless white eyes, which I always love. And then the teeth, which are sculpted in there. They're not just painted, so there is texture to that. And then you do have actually some little texture to the bandana as well. Just slight, but it is there. You can see it in the paint. And then you've got the wrap for the fringes of the bandana back there as well. So he does look fantastic. It's a faithful and really rock solid reinterpretation of the vintage toy. Of course, we do have to do some size comparisons here. He is, again, the same size as Raphael, but if you're not familiar, here he is with a few figures from the Super7 Ultimates line. So we've got a Baxter, so this is the glow-in-the-dark version, and then we've got a Foot Soldier here, which is still among my favorite figures in this line. So you can see that Leo is, of course, a little bit shorter than everything, which is normal. The turtle should be slightly smaller than all these other more normal humanoid, well, not that, figures. So let's move him aside. We've got our always present Beskar Mando here. So a 6-inch 1/12 style figure. Let's move Baxter aside. Let's do a Motu Classics figure. So something that is more 7-inch scaled. So here he is with Filmation Hordak, to give you an idea of what he looks like with another 7-inch line. How about a Power Ranger? Just because, why not? Turtles have crossed over with Power Rangers before. We don't really talk about that enough, or too much, really, but we've got Power Rangers Lightning Collection. And then we've got, here's another Ultimates. So we've got the Toxie from Super7 as well. And then how about a Marvel Legends figure? So we've got our Kang here, Kang the Conqueror, so a more normal style Marvel Legends figure to give you an idea what he looks like next to him. So he does scale a little bit on the small side, which is again pretty normal, but he's still a beefy figure. So he's more in line with this kind of stuff, but he's definitely still going to mix relatively well with Marvel Legends, Black Series, that kind of thing. Now, after size comparisons, we do have to, of course, compare other Leos, because there are quite a few from this era. There are various types, various versions, different styles, of course, different toy makers as well. The ones that truly matter the most are really just these two right here, and then, of course, to a lesser extent, the Super7 reaction. But we do have other Leos just to give you a look at, just through a different lens to see what Leo looked like for different reasons. So we've got the Cartoon Wave 1 from NECA, we've got the comic book NECA, we've got our movie NECA, the SH Figuarts, and then we've got the Wave 2 cartoon NECA over here as well. So they're all Leonardo from sort of the same era, but not the same style when it comes to toy. You got the Super7 reaction, but it's the same kind of thing that they're doing with Ultimates. So the original Playmates look done up in the reaction style. And then we've got one of my original Leos, and for whatever reason, this one does not have the right belt on him right now. I'm sure there's a 4-year-old culprit for that in the house somewhere, but you get the idea. So the very same look here when it comes to the head sculpt. They're very similar. That expression when it comes to the gritting of the teeth. The green on the plastic is really the big thing for me because it is very close. It is so similar. That just like they got Raphael really well, they also got Leo really well. So while there may not be a great deal to compare to overall when it comes to the different styles, it gives you a good idea of what is out there when it comes to various Leo figures. So you've got a bunch of different versions of Leo from roughly the same time period. Now, as far as accessories goes, Leo is another instance of being very similar to Raph, in that he comes with a whole bunch of stuff, and that's pretty much where it starts and stops. They both come with a lot of stuff. So, we do get an extra head sculpt to start with, and I figure it's the best thing to bring out first, because it's the biggest thing you can do to change up the figure. So, the regular head sculpt is, of course, the vintage style Playmates one. This is a much more just unique and original head sculpt that Super7 has gone with for Leo. So it's a very more stern, more angry. It's a more battle-ready style of head sculpt. So it's not this slightly goofy look that we have here, but it's a very more modern take on Leo when it comes to not being based on something. I don't know that it's my preference in terms of head sculpt just because I really like this, but I do think that this looks really fantastic. The expression is really great. I do love the trailing bandana effect. I think it looks really nice. So again, it gives him a more stern, a more just ready to throw down kind of look. We do get a bunch of extra hands as well, and just like Raph, there's a number of sets to choose from. So out of the box, Leo has a set of vertically hinged gripping hands. You get a set of horizontally hinged gripping hands as well, so you get both options. We get a set of style pose hands, and then we get a set of fists, which we did not get with Raph. So I'm really happy that we have these just to be able to use something that's not a weapon when it comes to the turtles. If you want to just have him, I don't know, knocking the block off of a foot soldier. We do, of course, get a bunch of weapons as well. So similar to the same kind of stuff we saw with Raph, we get more of the very telltale Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle weaponry, and this is all done up in brown with metallic silver. These are a little bit more rigid than the last time around. I think they feel a little bit more, or a little bit less flimsy rather, would be the easier way to say it. Because some of them had a little floppiness to them, but I think they feel pretty good here. We do get the open and closed turtle comms. So you get the one that just looks like the little turtle shell. You get the one that's open with all the fully sculpted and painted doodads and buttons all over it. I really do like these. We get a couple of throwing stars done up in silver metallic. We, of course, get our pizza, because every turtle needs a pizza. Why not? And you also get the katana. So we've already had these on the figure for the majority of the review, but we get nice silver blades with gold accents and the brown handles. I think these look really good. They are not nearly as flimsy as Raph's size were. They do have a lot of luster to them when it comes to this blade, and they just don't feel nearly as flimsy. That's a big thing for me. They have a lot more rigidity to them. Not in the sense that I feel like they're going to break by any means. They just feel a little bit more solid, which of course is fantastic when it comes to that. We also get, last but not least, the sprue for all of the weapons. So very much a callback to the vintage line. It's still a weird, goofy thing that they decided to throw in there, but I am very much happy for it because, again, it's a big nostalgia trip for me. That's what this whole line is, and it feels wrong to not include these, so I'm glad they're here regardless of what you're going to do with them. So yeah, overall, there's really not a whole lot to complain about on this guy. If you like Raphael, if you're into this line, there's likely not much you're going to be surprised about when it comes to this figure, because he is very much the same thing. I do think they absolutely nailed the parts that make this Leonardo. I love the inclusion of fists this time around. I think the swords look fantastic. The head sculpts are great. Sizing is, of course, really good, especially amongst other 7-inch style figures like what Super 7 produces. Colors, really well done. Packaging, again, is something that I find myself just really happy with, because I really like the box design when it comes to these lines. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this stuff. I think Super 7 did a really good job, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the other 2 turtles. It's going to be another wait, but we're going to be really happy when we have that team of 4 brothers finally completed. So I'm happy, at the very least, to finally have the quote-unquote best Ninja Turtle Leonardo. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates Leonardo. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.